regulation in the Progressive Democrats as enabling people to use their own genius to realise opportunity and not to hold them back through endless regulation that seeks to micromanage everything. We want to give power to people and to the genius of people to explore and exploit opportunities when they are given a chance. And we see that every day in the new companies that have been started in Ireland. There was a time when we felt only the state knew best. Thankfully today, more and more private initiative is providing services even in the public services area. And we will see more of that unless our public service has the capacity to reform and to adjust, and to do so quickly, because people will require services and they will want them procured by their government wherever and whenever they can be procured. It is a fact that the Ireland of today is one that requires more investment in education. 20 years ago, having your leaving cert was a guarantee of a terrific job. Now it is necessary to have university or third-level education, and tomorrow it will be necessary to have fourth-level education. And that is why the government is making such huge investment in innovation, science and technology. We are going to double the numbers of people qualifying with fourth-level education between now and 2013. And instead of Ireland just being the place where other people's ideas are manufactured or other people's ideas and services are supplied, we want to be the incubator, generating our own ideas. Because we know we have the intellectual capability in this country, we have the creativity, and when we are given a chance, we can be innovators in the world as well as we have shown in so many other areas, particularly in the arts and indeed in other aspects of life. And that is the Ireland of the future, a much more innovative one. One of the things that worries me about some of the debates that take place in this country is the assumption that the economy is over. We have achieved the economic success, I have heard people say, let's move on to quality of life. Well, the first thing I want to say is economic success and quality of life are intertwined. You cannot enhance the quality of life of our citizens or raise their living standards unless we maintain the economic success. We know that as individuals, we know it for the country too. If you take the area of health, over the last 10 years we have been able to hire 100 more consultants. We would not be able to do that if we did not have the economic resources generated to allow us to do that. So if we want to make, as we do, more investment in education and health, in infrastructure and so on, we have got to continue with the economic success, and we have got to make sure the tools that are capable of delivering the economic success are always enhanced. Economic success is not about the growth rates. To a large extent, they do not matter. Economic success is the enabler to allow us to reach our potential. It is the enabler that will allow me, for example, as Minister for Health, to be able to make more key investments in areas where we all know they are so badly needed. There is one thing too that concerns me about the upcoming election, and that is an attitude that we simply do more of the same. Keep doing things the way we used to do them. And as I have said to you, that is not a recipe for success or for being at the match in the future as far as this country is concerned. It is a fact that elections often bring out the worst in people. I was around when I saw auction politics at its worst, and I saw what it did to our people. It led to emigration, it wrecked lives. People using the people's money to buy the people's vote. We will not engage as a party in auction politics. You won't hear me promising more beds than somebody else, or more medical cards than somebody else, or free insurance, even where people are currently paying it themselves. One party wants to pay it for you. Don't be fooled by that, because above all else in this country, we have got to have credibility in terms of the policies we put forward. And we will be discussing health this afternoon, but there is nothing we need more in health than the effective use of the resource we have at the moment. More of the same will not work. More of the same will not deliver better services. If it is the fact that in Ireland we spend 50% more time in the acute hospital for 20 of the top conditions than they do in Australia, giving us more beds will not achieve more services unless we change the manner in which we use the existing stock of beds. And that is but just one example. So I hope I hope, as we draw nearer to the election, which will be held in approximately 90 days from now, that we will have a real debate amongst competing parties about the issues in terms of public services and how much we can afford to spend on public services over the next few years. But equally, we will have a debate on the economy, and that debate will be based on ensuring that the economic success is not taken for granted, because it cannot be guaranteed. Complacency, fellow delegates, is the enemy of economic success. If a bus is travelling and it's stuck on straight all the time, one thing is certain: it will have a crash. We've got to be prepared to change the course, to change the tools. We've got to be prepared to revisit, as T.K. Whitaker said, some of the assumptions of the past. And in our case, we've got, in particular in Ireland, to continue with the further programme of deregulation and liberalisation. Competition is not an end in itself, but competition delivers better services, more innovation and better value for money for consumers. We've seen it with airlines, and we've seen it in many other respects too. There was a time in Ireland when only the rich could afford to travel. Today, everybody can afford to travel for holidays, to see family, to explore this wonderful world. And that's because of deregulation, cheaper airfares and the opportunities that that has delivered. And we can see that in so many other walks of life as well. It is a fact that in the area in our health services, we have increased the investment fourfold over the last 10 years. Many people would say, where has the money gone? Yes, there have been 50,000 more employees working in delivering services. Health is extraordinarily labour intensive. But the one lesson we have all learned, whether we're employees in the health service or Minister for Health, or indeed anybody that comments on our health system, is that investment without reform, without change, does not deliver the outcomes that people expect. And that's why I'm so proud to be driving a programme of change. Recently in the Dáil, the spokesperson for the Green Party said he loved being spokesperson for health, but he'd hate to be the Minister for Health. Now, just think about it. Some people like to talk about it, but they don't want to take on the tough job of actually doing something about it. Well, I love the job, and I love the challenge, and I see the results all the time. 60% improvement in accident and emergency figures. Still not good enough, but we're on the way to making sure that when people need services, they get them promptly and effectively and efficiently. And that's about changing the way we do the business as much as it is about new investment. And in the area of care of the elderly, I have devoted a considerable amount of time to this issue. Our society is ageing. Our older people built up this country. We owe them so much. And nowhere is it more necessary to make sure that we care for older people than in their own homes and their own community. Residential care has to be seen as the last resort and not the first resort. And that's why we're hugely strengthening the supports to older people to remain in their own homes, with their own families and in their own community. This afternoon, I'll be talking about some of the issues I want to confront in health, and particularly some of the issues that we'll have in our manifesto. But one commitment I want to see this party have in its manifesto on health is the creation of an ombudsman for older people. I believe that older people need that independent voice representing them when it comes to interaction with the government system at local and national level. And it will be an ombudsman along the lines of the Ombudsman for Children, and we will be spelling out later this afternoon what that will involve. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to address this conference, not in my capacity as leader, but in my capacity as Minister for Health and Children. It's always a pleasure to come to the party conference, and I have to say it's a particular pleasure to come when you don't have the worry of being the party leader. And I want to wish my successor, Michael McDougall, every success this evening, and I want to also welcome to this party conference. My predecessor, Des O'Malley, I understand, has just joined us.
There we must leave Minister Mary Harney and end our live coverage of the Progressive Democrats conference here in Wexford. The conference continues this afternoon, but we'll return for live coverage of the party leader's speech on RT1 television at 8:30 tonight. Until then, goodbye from Wexford.